If you listen to our podcast, Morally Offensive, a podcast about the films condemned by the Catholic Church, this week we covered Mae West. I'm going to start issuing either retractions or corrections when I say something or one of our guests says something that isn't quite correct, and I notice it when I listen back. This week, I want to talk about the encyclicals I mentioned, which are papal documents that essentially clarify or further define the teachings of the Catholic Church. I said that there were encyclicals in the late 1800s and early 1900s which criticized the right of women to vote and women's suffrage. This is half true. They don't mention the right to vote. However, several do criticize women working, often in a very condescending sort of like, we love women, but we want to protect the family type of tone. So the first is from 1891 from Pope Leo the 13th. This is a document called Rerum Novarum. This was a social encyclical which addressed labor and economic injustice. Actually, pretty woke in some respects and not so much in others, which is kind of the history of the Catholic Church. Sometimes they're very on the left, and sometimes they're way too far right. It's still the same way. What the Pope says in this document is women, again, are not suited for certain trades, for woman by nature is fitted for homework, and is that which is best adapted at once to preserve her modesty and to promote the good bringing up of children and the well-being of the family. Obviously, this is very condescending and very sexist, but it's also being done in this very like classically Catholic paternal way where it's like we just want to look out for women. So it's kind of infantilizing. The next document is Casti Connubii from 1930. This is from Pope Pius XI, again, a papal encyclical, an official document on church teaching. This was on marriage, contraception, and upholding traditional family values. Uh, he calls in this document for civil authorities to support families so that the mother of the family is not forced to work outside the home, which he viewed as a great harm to the home by forcing a woman to work. He doesn't assume, of course, that a woman would just, want to work or not have kids. So again, kind of woke in that he's asking for a living wage and wants a father to be able, one income to be able to support a family, which I agree with. One income should be able to support a family. It's just the reasoning is incredibly misogynistic. 1931, we have, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Quadragesimo Anno from 1931. I'm sorry that I just go Super Mario Brothers. The Pope's Exorcist episode has destroyed my brain. This is from Pope Pius XI. Again, Quadragesimo Anno from 1931. This kind of adds to the document Rerum Novarum, and it outlines Catholic social doctrine, which again is something today we don't. More people are talking about it, especially on the Catholic left, but it was kind of ignored in a lot of circles. Still is, and if you mention it, people who are more traditionalist or conservative like to act like you are some like leftist commie, even though it's a papal document. Very funny. In this document, the Pope advocates for a family wage. So essentially, the husband would be able to earn enough so the wife doesn't need to work outside the home, which preserves the mother's domestic role. Now, see, this is interesting because so many trad and conservative Catholic pundits today crap all over the idea of raising the minimum wage or providing a living wage for workers. Yet, this is a arguably traditional papal document. It's pre-Vatican II saying that it is a moral obligation of a employer to pay enough so that a husband can support a family. This would be far more ethical and moral if it just said a parent, whichever parent wants to work can work, and then that can provide for the family. Right now I'm a single income provider at the moment, and I'm lucky. I'm stupid lucky. I don't think I'm blessed. I'm lucky to be able to provide in the sense that I do. But not everyone has that option. I've definitely had times in my life where I have not been able to do that. I could not have a family. And we don't have kids. So if we had kids, it would be much harder. So again, this is the history of the Catholic Church. It's like you guys are so close and then you just miss the mark. But even today, it's weird that we ignore this stuff. We don't talk about living wages in the Catholic Church. Yet in the early 1900s, late 1800s, coming off the Gilded Age, there was so much talk about living wages and the fact that to keep a family together is to provide a living wage. And obviously today, so many people are not having families. One reason why, and it's not some kind of like moral failing on their part, is that literally there aren't enough jobs that provide a living wage for a one income family. It's not. you have to at least work 2 jobs. Each person works, and then they might even work multiple jobs. Immigrant families often have like one parent might work 2 to 3 jobs. This is the reality we live in, yet these are the things they love to ignore. Now, outside of the Pope, there was criticism of women voting from certain cardinals. Cardinal James Gibbons of Baltimore in 1915 wrote, "When I deprecate female suffrage, I am pleading for the dignity of woman. Woman is queen indeed, but her empire is the domestic kingdom." So again, just saying, like, you women need to stay out of the voting booth because it's for your best interest. We love you so much. You're so great. Let's put you on a pedestal and not give you any agency. On the flip side of that, there were archbishops who encouraged priests to talk about women's suffrage from the pulpit positively. Reportedly, now this doesn't seem to be from a primary, this seems to be like secondhand knowledge, so it's not a primary source, so gauge it how you will, but reportedly Pope Benedict XV reportedly told the leader of a Catholic women's suffrage group that he would like to see women electors everywhere. Now, to paint a picture of like greater suffrage in the church, there were women who were practicing Catholics, devout, who were fighting for women's suffrage, who were feminists. In 1917, famously Dorothy Day, who may one day be up for canonization and sainthood, we can only hope, joined activists in D.C. standing outside the White House with picket signs demanding equality and votes for women, and she was jailed and brutally beaten. A woman who is a prominent Catholic figure who we have so much respect for now, even as an ex-Catholic. I love Dorothy Day. I think, she did so much for the poor and women in the church. She was jailed and beaten, a Catholic woman. And, I think today of like just a few years ago during the George Floyd protests when nuns were tear gassed by President Trump for a photo op. Nothing has changed. I as an ex-Catholic, I'm critical of the Catholic Church as a system, but there are so many good people throughout its history doing good, and we often only get one side of the history, either very critical or very whitewashed. And my goal is to present a very complicated, nuanced portrait, which, and that's why I'm doing these fact checks. So, I know this is a long video, but if you like this, please check out our podcast episode. We talk a little bit more about this in context of Mae West, and other episodes do dig into this.